So please introduce yourselves.
Oh, okay. I am Dr. Jess Pacella. I'm a lecturer of creative industries at the University of South Australia, and I'm currently a co-curator for the Adelaide Queer Film Festival at Feast.
Amazing.
And I'm Dr. Stuart Richards, a senior lecturer in screen studies at UniSA, also co-curator.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. So how long have you guys been involved with Feast for?
I moved to Adelaide in 2019, and that year I put on an event at the Capri Theatre because I wanted more films in the Feast program, and we programmed The Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which was a great lesbian French film, and it was a big hit. And then the Capri asked me back the next year, and we also programmed a lot of shorts that evening as well. That was in partnership with Queer Screen in Sydney, and that has been happening year after year. And then last year we branched out and had more films, and this year's even bigger.
It is.
Why is film important?
Oh. You go first.
Well, I think film is important because as a queer person, often that is where we first see ourselves on screen. When you grow up queer, very often you don't know anyone else who's queer, and often it is that glimpse of queerness on screen that will kind of allow you to see yourself in storytelling. It will allow you to be represented. And for people who are not queer as well, it's a great chance for them to also see, you know, the beautiful complexity of being queer as well. So I think that engagement and that form of representation is really, really important.
Can't be what you can't see.
Yep. Yep.
And Jess, I saw that in your office you have a retro Feast poster. Can you tell us your experience with Feast?
Oh, I do.
What year is the poster you have?
That is from the very first year of the very first Feast Festival in 1997. So I'm from Adelaide. I grew up here, and the Feast Festival has always existed for me. And I guess it was one of the first places that I knew that I could access culture, art, fun, that was meant for me and meant for someone like me, meant for a queer person. And as a person growing up, you know, like in the late 90s and early thousands, it wasn't always really easy to access those kinds of things. And Feast was always that safe place. It was always a place of imagination and a place of dreams and a place of fun and fantastic. So it's always had this sort of, I always held a very special place in my heart for me.
Has Feast been a part of your coming out journey at all?
Ironically, no. But I guess perhaps in a supportive way, in a way that, you know, showed me a life that I could live, a life that I could have, and a community that I could access if I ever needed it. I suppose that in that way, in that sort of ephemeral way, was always sort of there standing behind me.
Yeah. And have you ever met any partners at Feast or at Picnic?
I think I'm a really bad lesbian, and I would say no.
We've had a lot of stories of people going, oh, I met my wife, or I met my husband, or I met somebody at Picnic. Yeah.
No, unfortunately no. I mean, what a place. I mean, particularly around like the jelly mud wrestling, you know, what a place to meet your future spouse, but no.
Amazing. And Feast Festival would love to show gratitude and appreciation because both of you volunteer your services to do the curation. So can you talk more about why you would do that?
Yeah, I think for me, when I just have these really strong memories growing up, thinking that if I ever found myself in a position where I could advocate as people before me had done that advocacy work, I would do that. And I was fortunate enough to sort of be in the position that I'm in, working at the University of South Australia, being a lecturer, working in film, or working with film rather, that I could do it. And it just became really important to me to sort of not just promote film culture, but promote queer film and support it in any way that I could. So I think it's just that deep sense of responsibility that I think I feel to both my community, to other advocates who have gone before me, to other films and filmmakers that have gone before me, to sort of carry on that legacy and to share that with our community.
Watching queer film with other queer people is a really, I think, special experience. So there's lots of queer films and queer stories getting told now in mainstream media. We have major film festivals programming queer films, but being able to watch a queer story surrounded by other queer people with that safety and that connection with community is really special.
We program, so when Stuart and I talked about what we would program for Feast this year and the expanded film program and the Adelaide Queer Film Festival, which is such a thrill to be able to say, is that we didn't just want to program films just because, or films that were gay in a broad sense. Representation matters to both of us,
yeah.
And it's not just about programming films that are fun to watch or easy to watch. It's also about programming films that are hard to watch. And I think that's also because queer liberation is unequal and uneven. And seeing queer struggle on screen, I think, is both a privilege and a responsibility. And it means a lot to be able to share that experience with other queer people and other allies too, and have them watch those kinds of struggles and triumphs all together at the same time. And so when we program, or when we came up with the program and what we would like to curate, that was always kind of front of mind about having not just one singular kind of queer story or one singular kind of queer struggle or one singular kind of queer liberation or queer success, because it looks really different for a lot of people. Including certain kinds of marginalisation within the queer community is also really important to us. So we programmed with that kind of representational equity in mind.
Also fun films as well. Yeah.
It's not just about watching like awful coming out stories. They exist and we should watch them and we should share those struggles, but we should also share having fun and partying.
Silly date films.
Yeah. Okay, so I would say queer stories matter. End of sentence. That's what I would say. That representation is so important, and it's not just representation and that's it. It's the kind of representation. So it's about complexity, it's about authenticity, and it's not just about screening films just because they have a modicum of gay content. It's about access to culture that speaks to you in a really personal kind of way that is from another queer person that can speak to you. So it's this really interesting kind of combination of like conversation, equity, access, representation that matters. I think all those things together, like you don't get that at any other kind of mainstream or heteronormative arts and culture festival. Getting a festival that's queer in particular, that has that as its focus, is really, really critical and really, really important. And I think queer festivals and queer film festivals will continue to be important for that reason. Having a very particular space just to see those stories and be around people who share those stories with you, share those experiences with you, is really, really critical.
Queer stories matter and queer festivals matter because it's really important to support the audiences and develop those audiences to be able to have access to queer artists and queer film, but also to support that environment for watching them and experiencing them. So, you know, what I love about queer film festivals is it's not just going to see the film, but it is also lining up beforehand and getting a drink afterwards and being in that space with your community, watching queer stories and diverse queer stories as well. So not just gay men, but you know, the trans community, queer women, all of these different forms of sexualities and genders having their stories told for audiences, I think is really special.